The Marketplace Discovery. Ethan's boots echoed against the metallic floor as he navigated through the Zenui Marketplace, one of the galaxy's most notorious trading hubs. As Earth's youngest diplomatic representative, he'd been warned to keep a low profile. Their planet's recent inclusion in the Galactic Council was still fragile, and any misstep could jeopardize humanity's future among the stars. The marketplace was a sensory overload. Creatures with tentacles for arms haggled over glowing crystals, while six-legged merchants displayed exotic fruits that pulsed with their own inner light. The air was thick with the scent of spices he couldn't name and the metallic tang of alien technology. But it was the commotion at the far end of the market that caught his attention. A massive crowd had formed around something, their excited chatter creating a symphony of alien languages. Curiosity got the better of his diplomatic training, and Ethan pushed through the throng of creatures. What he saw made his blood run cold. Inside an enormous reinforced cage sat the most magnificent and terrifying creature he'd ever laid eyes on. The Vorga dragon was easily the size of a small spacecraft, its scales shimmering like black oil in the dim marketplace lighting. Ancient scars crisscrossed its hide, telling stories of battles that spanned centuries. Its wings, even folded, nearly touched the cage walls, and its crimson eyes burned with an intelligence that was both captivating and frightening. First time seeing a Vorga, human, asked a squat alien beside him, its four eyes blinking in sequence. Ethan nodded, unable to find his voice. This one's ancient, the alien continued with obvious relish. Older than most star systems. They say its fire burns hotter than supernovas, and its roar can shatter moon-sized asteroids. The market owners offering a fortune to anyone brave enough to get within touching distance. The dragon shifted, its massive head turning toward the crowd. Those crimson eyes seemed to look directly through Ethan, and for a moment, he felt a strange connection, not fear, but recognition. As if the ancient creature was acknowledging his presence specifically. "Why is it here?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien's expression turned gleeful. Entertainment. These creatures are untamable, unstoppable forces of nature. Having one caged is like capturing a living storm. The market owners making a fortune just from admission fees. As Ethan stared at the magnificent beast, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The dragon's eyes held too much intelligence, too much pain. This wasn't just a wild animal, this was a sentient being reduced to a spectacle. The crowd suddenly grew quiet, and Ethan noticed a commotion near the cage. Someone was moving forward, ignoring the warnings and gasps of the onlookers. A figure smaller than most in the crowd was approaching the legendary beast that had made warriors across the galaxy tremble in fear. The unlikely approach. The figure moving through the crowd was human, a young woman with determined eyes and an air of calm that seemed completely out of place in the chaotic marketplace. Her simple clothing marked her as a traveler, not a warrior or a scientist. She appeared to be in her early 20s, with an expression that held neither fear nor bravado, but something far more dangerous, compassion. "Is she insane?" someone in the crowd whispered. "Just another human with a death wish," muttered a serpentine alien, its forked tongue flicking out nervously. But Ethan watched her with growing fascination. There was something about her movements, graceful, purposeful, as if she knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't approaching the dragon like someone seeking thrills or glory. She moved like someone going to comfort a friend. The Vorga dragon had noticed her too. Its massive head lifted, nostrils flaring as it caught her scent. The rumbling growl that had been emanating from its throat died away, replaced by an expectant silence that seemed to settle over the entire marketplace. "She's going to get herself killed," Ethan muttered, but he found himself unable to look away. The woman stopped just inches from the cage bars, so close that the dragon's hot breath created a visible mist around her. The ancient creature's eyes, burning like twin suns, fixed on her face with an intensity that should have been terrifying. Instead, she met its gaze steadily, her expression soft with understanding. "You're more than this," she whispered, her voice barely audible but somehow carrying through the tense silence. "I know what they say about you, that you're a monster, that you're beyond reason. But I don't believe that. The dragon tilted its massive head, as if trying to understand her words. Its eyes, which had been blazing with fury moments before, now held something different, curiosity, perhaps even recognition. I believe there's more to you, she continued, slowly raising her hand to rest against the cage bars. You're not just a beast to be caged and displayed. You're a being with feelings, with memories, with pain. The crowd had gone completely silent now, watching in stunned disbelief as this small human woman spoke to one of the galaxy's most feared predators as if it were a wounded animal in need of comfort. Ethan felt his heart racing. Every instinct told him to intervene, to pull her away from danger, but something held him back. There was magic happening here, the kind of connection that transcended species, language, and fear itself. The dragon lowered its great head closer to the bars, its breath creating clouds of steam in the cool marketplace air. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, woman and dragon simply looked at each other, two intelligent beings recognizing something fundamental in one another. Then she did something that made the entire crowd gasp in horror and amazement. The kiss that changed everything. With a gentleness that defied all logic, the woman leaned forward and pressed her lips to the metal bar closest to the dragon's snout. It was such a simple gesture, a kiss given through the barrier that separated them, yet it sent shockwaves through every witness in the marketplace. The effect on the Vorga dragon was immediate and profound. Its massive body went completely still, the tension in its coiled muscles melting away like ice under a warm sun. The fierce crimson glow in its eyes softened, replaced by something Ethan had never seen in any description of these legendary creatures, wonder. The dragon's nostrils flared as it inhaled deeply, as if trying to understand this unprecedented act of tenderness. Its great head moved closer to the bars, and for a moment, it seemed as though the ancient beast was trying to return the gesture, its massive snout pressing gently against the metal where her lips had touched. The crowd erupted into chaos. Aliens of every species chattered in amazement, their voices creating a cacophony of disbelief. Some pointed with trembling appendages, others backed away in terror, certain that this display of affection would enrage the dragon. But Ethan couldn't take his eyes off the scene before him. Impossible, breathed the four-eyed alien beside him. In all the chronicles of the galaxy, no creature has ever calmed a Vorga. The woman slowly pulled back, her eyes never leaving the dragon's face. There was a connection between them now, something that transcended the physical barrier of the cage. The dragon's breathing had become slow and measured, its massive chest rising and falling in a rhythm that seemed almost peaceful. "Are you all right?" Ethan found himself asking as he pushed through the stunned crowd to reach her side. His diplomatic training warred with his amazement, he should be creating distance from this spectacle, not moving closer to it. She turned to him with a serene smile that held depths he couldn't fathom. "I'm fine," she replied, her voice carrying a quiet strength. "My name is Lyra, and I don't believe in monsters." She placed a hand over her heart. "Not here, anyway. Not unless we create them ourselves." The dragon made a sound then, not a roar or a growl, but something almost like a purr, if a creature the size of a building could purr. Its eyes remained fixed on Lyra, and Ethan could swear he saw gratitude in those ancient depths. "You're from Earth," Ethan said, recognizing the accent in her words that matched his own. "A traveler," she confirmed, glancing back at the dragon. "I never expected to find such a magnificent being trapped like this. Every creature deserves to be understood, not just feared." The marketplace around them was still in chaos, but within the small bubble of space near the cage, there was an otherworldly calm. The Vorga dragon, legendary destroyer of worlds, lay with its great head resting against the bars, its breathing steady and peaceful, watching the human woman who had shown it the first kindness it had experienced in who knew how long. But their moment of tranquility was about to be shattered by the arrival of someone who had a very different view of what had just occurred. Confrontation and understanding. The peaceful moment was shattered by the arrival of an imposing figure pushing through the crowd. The market overseer, a tall alien with crystalline skin and robes that marked him as someone of considerable authority, approached with obvious fury. His entourage of guards flanked him, their hands resting on weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "You," he bellowed, pointing a clawed finger at Lyra. "What have you done? This creature is a symbol of power, a testament to the strength required to capture the uncapturable. You have made a mockery of our greatest achievement." Lyra turned to face him calmly, her hand still resting near the cage bars where the dragon watched the confrontation with keen interest. "I haven't done anything to disrespect your customs," she replied evenly. "I simply showed kindness to a living being. Perhaps if you tried the same approach, you wouldn't need cages and restraints." The overseer's crystalline features darkened with rage. "You dare lecture us on handling creatures? You humans know nothing of the power this beast possesses. It has destroyed entire star systems, reduced civilizations to ash. It is here as a reminder of what strength can accomplish when properly channeled." "And what has your strength accomplished?" Lyra asked, gesturing to the cage. "You've turned a magnificent, intelligent creature into a spectacle. You've created the very monster you claim to control." Ethan watched the exchange with growing tension. His diplomatic training screamed at him to intervene, to smooth over the situation before it escalated into an interplanetary incident. But something about Lyra's quiet confidence held him back. The dragon shifted behind its bars, and for a moment, Ethan thought it might react to the raised voices and aggressive postures. Instead, it made that same rumbling purr-like sound, its attention focused entirely on Lyra as if drawing comfort from her presence. "Look at it," Lyra said softly, turning back to the cage. "This creature isn't showing you the respect of fear, it's responding to genuine connection. Every being, no matter how powerful or ancient, craves understanding." The overseer stepped closer, his guards tensing. "Understanding? This creature could break free and incinerate half the marketplace before we could stop it. The cage isn't just for our protection, it's for the protection of every being here." "Then why hasn't it?" Lyra asked simply. "The bars are metal, the locks are mechanical. A creature capable of destroying star systems could certainly break free from this cage if it truly wanted to. Have you ever considered that maybe it stays because it chooses to? Because even imprisonment is better than the loneliness of being feared by every living thing in the galaxy." Her words hung in the air like a challenge, and Ethan saw something flicker in the overseer's eyes, doubt, perhaps, or recognition of a truth he'd never allowed himself to consider. The dragon moved then, rising to its full height within the confines of its prison. Its wings stretched as far as the cage would allow, and its great head turned toward the overseer and his guards. But instead of the fury they expected, its eyes held a strange dignity, as if it were acknowledging the truth of Lyra's words. "You want to know what real strength looks like?" Lyra said, her voice carrying across the now silent marketplace. "It's not about caging what you fear. It's about finding the courage to understand it." The overseer stood frozen, his argument dying on his lips as he stared into the ancient eyes of the Vorga dragon. For the first time in the creature's captivity, he saw not a monster to be contained, but a being capable of choice, a being that had chosen, in this moment, to show restraint rather than destruction. The crowd waited in breathless silence, sensing that something fundamental was about to change in their understanding of both power and compassion. Liberation and new beginnings. The silence stretched across the marketplace like a held breath. The overseer stared at the dragon, his crystalline features reflecting the internal struggle between fear and newfound understanding. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he approached the cage. "In all my years," he said quietly, his voice lacking its earlier authority, "I have never seen the Vorga respond to anyone like this. We captured it after it destroyed the mining colony on Kepler 7, believing it to be nothing more than a mindless force of destruction." Lyra stepped closer to the bars, and the dragon lowered its great head toward her. What if it wasn't mindless destruction? What if it was defending something? These creatures are ancient, they've seen civilizations rise and fall. Maybe the colony was built on something sacred to it, something it felt compelled to protect. The dragon's eyes closed briefly, as if in acknowledgement of her words, and when they opened again, there was a profound sadness there that even the overseer could not ignore. Ethan found his voice at last. As a representative of Earth, I formally request that this creature be given the chance to communicate its intentions. If it truly is as intelligent as it appears, then keeping it caged without understanding its actions makes us no better than the civilizations that once enslaved humans. The comparison struck home. Several aliens in the crowd shifted uncomfortably, their own histories of oppression reflected in Ethan's words. The overseer looked from Lyra to Ethan to the dragon, then at his guards and the expectant crowd. The risk is worth taking, Lyra finished. Real courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to do what's right despite that fear. After what felt like an eternity, the overseer nodded slowly. Open the cage, he commanded his guards. The crowd gasped and several aliens moved back as the massive locks disengaged with metallic clicks that echoed through the marketplace. The cage door swung open with a groan of protesting hinges. The Vorga dragon remained perfectly still for a moment, as if unable to believe that its imprisonment was truly ending. Then, with movements both graceful and powerful, it emerged from its confinement. But instead of the rampage everyone expected, the ancient creature did something remarkable. It approached Lyra slowly, lowering its massive head until it was level with hers. With infinite gentleness, it pressed its snout against her outstretched palm. The connection between them was visible to everyone present, not just the touch of flesh to scale, but something deeper. Understanding. Forgiveness. Hope. The dragon then turned to the overseer, and instead of vengeance, it offered a slight bow of its great head, acknowledgement and, perhaps, gratitude for his change of heart. I understand now, the overseer said, his voice filled with wonder. It stayed in the cage not because it couldn't escape, but because it was waiting. Waiting for someone to see past the fear to the being beneath. As the crowd slowly dispersed, their worldviews forever changed by what they had witnessed, Lyra and Ethan stood together watching the dragon stretch its wings for the first time in months. What will you do now? Ethan asked the magnificent creature, though he didn't expect an answer. The dragon turned its ancient eyes to him, and in that gaze, Ethan saw wisdom accumulated over countless millennia. With powerful beats of its wings, the Vorga lifted into the air above the marketplace. It circled once, as if saying farewell, then soared toward the stars. It's going home, Lyra said softly, watching until the dragon became just another point of light against the cosmic backdrop. And what about you? Ethan asked. Where's home for someone who can communicate with legendary dragons? Lyra smiled, the same serene expression she'd worn when facing the caged beast. Wherever understanding is needed most, I suppose. The galaxy is full of creatures that have been labeled as monsters simply because they're different or powerful. Maybe it's time someone spoke for them. As they walked away from the now empty cage, Ethan realized that he had witnessed something that would reshape interspecies relations across the galaxy. A simple act of compassion had proven that even the most feared creatures could choose peace when offered understanding instead of hatred. The marketplace resumed its bustling activity, but the memory of what had transpired would live on in every being present. They had seen fear transformed into friendship, and in doing so, had glimpsed the true potential of galactic civilization. In the vast cosmos above, the Vorga dragon soared free, no longer a symbol of destruction, but a testament to the power of compassion to bridge any divide. The end.